stop. If your ball python shed looks like this, then you have a problem and we need to address it. But don't worry, because today we're going to cover on why your ball python shed looks like that. And what that is stuck shed. That means it's not coming off in one smooth sleeve like it should. But again, don't worry, because we're going to address that today, so how you guys can correct it, you know why it's happening, how you prevent it, and how to fix the immediate issues so you can get that stuck shed off of your beloved pet before it causes them any more issues. Well, quick guys, these pieces right here are actually kind of a bad example besides the one that's still on the floor. But this is actually one whole piece, but unfortunately I've had it for a while and I've let it unfortunately dry out. And so it looks like it's kind of looked like it's a bad shed, but it really wasn't a bad shed. This actually was a pretty good shed. But here's a good example of what you kind of want to see in a shed, how solid that is. Of course, this was all in one piece, but as I was trying to unfold it to show you guys, I unfortunately kind of tore it apart. But this is kind of what you want to see in a full shedding, but of course the whole sleeve of your ball python. Hey morphers, welcome back to Morphing Serpents. And if you're new to the channel, I am Ryan Sundart and this is the Morphing Serpents channel. Well guys, you know, I imagine for anybody who's owned a ball python for any specific amount of time has done this before, and that's that dreaded stuck shed. And we all know how big of a pain in the butt it can be and how much of a pain it is for them. So today I want to talk about why it happens and how we can fix that stuck shed, how to get that off of them, as well as how we can try to prevent that from happening for the future. So let's cover why is it happening. Why is my ball python having stuck shed? And most of the time, the reason why your ball python is suffering from stuck shed is due to your humidity levels. Then most of the time, they're probably not going to be at the proper range of where they need to be. Ball pythons need about a 60% to 80% range of humidity levels. For us here at Morphing Serpents, we prefer about 68% as far as the minimum for our likeness for them. That way we know there's plenty of humidity in their enclosure for them, keeping them happy, keeping them comfortable. And a lot of times what can affect your humidity levels is your substrate as far as what you're using, as well as the enclosure you have them in. And we've touched on that in other videos, and I'm not going to get too deep with that now. If you would like more specific on that, please just drop down a comment, and I'd be happy to add that bit of information. But back to the humidity portion of it. If the humidity levels are not in the proper range where they need to be at all times, or at least most of the time, what you're going to find that's going to happen is their body are going to start losing that hydration. Essentially, that hydration is being pulled from their scales or skin, whatever you want to call it, and essentially evaporating into the air, which affects their biological fluid that they produce. And that biological fluid that they produce is called a lymphatic fluid. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, and if I'm not, I'm sorry, but it's called a lymphatic fluid. And basically what happens is when they're starting to get their eyes covered in that bluish fog and they're losing their color a bit, what's happening in that process is that lymphatic fluid is being produced by their bodies due to the hydration they have, because the moisture they have in their scales is producing that lymphatic fluid, which is allowing them to separate their old skin and their new skin away from it, allowing them to rub it off on whatever they have to rub it off with. If their bodies are not at the proper hydration where they need to be, because their humidity levels are so low, it's affecting them, that old skin is going to stick to them like glue, and it's going to be very hard for them to get that off, which can be actually a very painful process. And really at that point, if their skin is so dry that they're having stuck shed, they've already been in pain for a while. So it's very important that you are ensuring that they have the proper humidity levels. I'm going to grab Princess, our new snake here. I'm going to show you guys kind of where we keep to have ours, so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about as far as humidity level range. So instead of taking it out, I'm just going to show you guys, but you can see her temperature on this side is a little low. I'm going to have to fix that. But you can see down here for the humidity level, it is at about 69. It was about 70% a second ago, but it's about 69%, and that's on her cold side. We'd prefer a little bit higher, but we'll have to take a little bit of moisturing the substrate. And this is the coconut fiber I was talking to you guys before about. This is a great source when it comes to maintaining your humidity levels. Get your coconut husk or coconut fibers. For me, I prefer the fibers, and this is a great way to help ensure your humidity levels stay adequate to where they are at. You guys a quick glimpse at Princess here. I don't necessarily want to take her out just yet. She's only had one successful feeding here this past week, so I just want to give her a little bit more time to adjust to her new home before we take her out. But I did want to give you guys a bit of a sneak peek at her. She hasn't been too shy. She's actually been enjoying her new enclosure she's got here. We will be upgrading her soon, but this is kind of where she's at for right now, and she is absolutely gorgeous. Okay guys, let's get back to our topic here on the stuck shed and why it's happening. Okay, so now we know why it's happening, what's causing it. Now you're in the predicament that your snake, your ball python has stuck shed. Now what do we do? How can we fix it? Because that stuck shed that's still on them is very painful for them, and we need to try to help them if we can to get that off. You know, I know I'm about to upset quite a few people when I say this. This comes back to what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. But I know this to be a very useful fact, and a lot of breeders use this, and I've used it over the years of being owning ball pythons. Never had an issue. Guys, before you just see somebody ranting on a post that this method doesn't work, make sure you guys kind of vet your research, making sure you're following the correct tips. So right here, it's your standard tub you can get from Walmart. One of the greatest things that you can do to help your ball python with stuck shed is soaking them. And some will tell you that it's going to cause them unneeded stress. That's not the case. You might cause a little bit of stress, and when you first put in the water, it all depends how they first react to it. But within the first few minutes, they might be kind of looking around, trying to look at a way to get out of the tub. Yes, because you're putting them in an unknown situation. Well, I'm in water. Why am I in water? They're just trying to figure out what's going on. Are they in danger? But once they realize they're not in danger, they settle down, and you'll actually see them actually enjoying soaking in that water. Once they realize it's actually helping them. So you guys get a tub like this, put some holes in it. Excuse the mess in here. It was used for a rescue, and I just haven't cleaned it yet. But you just put some holes into here so they have a way to breathe. And you want to have enough water in here where it's not to cover their whole body, but you want to leave plenty of room where they can still breathe and they can still keep their head above water. Because even though they're super cool, unfortunately they were not given the ability to breathe underwater. So you do need to make sure that they have a little bit of room in here for them to breathe, but plenty of water to make sure that they are able to cover their whole body. And I prefer getting something like this that they can't really push their lid off. If they were to try to get, and that way you know it's secure. And that way if you bump it, you know it's not going to bust open. It's not going to spill open. You're not going to hurt your beloved animal. Nothing like that. The water, you want to make sure it's like a lukewarm water. You don't really want it warm to you. If you get it where it's warm to you, odds are it's going to be really hot for them. So you kind of want a lukewarm temperature. Come up the same temperature of their body. And that's kind of where I would recommend as far as the temperature. You want to make sure you guys are not burning them from the too hot of water. And again, of course, that they can't speak. They're not going to tell you how if it's hurting. So just make sure you're doing it right. Because if you're doing it wrong, that can cause them stress because you're causing them pain. And once you have them in your tub and they're soaking, give it about 15-20 minutes. You can once that 15-20 minutes up, you take it back out. You can get like a little cloth. If you want to, if towel is pumped not very rough, and just you can rub it against their scales and try to take off some of that stuck shed. And if it's not wanting to come off, you just put them back, let their bodies continue to absorb that water that they were just in, absorbing that moisture, and make sure that the humidity levels are kind of boosted up. At that point, I will actually boost the humidity levels to where it's about closer to 85%, if not a little bit higher. That way I know they have ambient amount of humidity to help get that shed off, and it kind of helps get that process going a little bit faster as far as to get that stuck shed off of them, so that we're not causing them pain any longer than they have to go through. And if you notice in a couple days that's still some on there, you can try it again with the tub. On the tub, I wouldn't go as long depending on how much you got in there. But often, by 9 times out of 10 in my experience, after 15-20 minutes soaking, all their stuff shed has come off. There's no issues. So that I know that to be a great option. Don't listen to those who will tell you you're causing undue distress, that it's not good for them. That is not true. That's not true, excuse me, whatsoever. I actually have a ball python who's on beautiful pine. His name is Ghost. I know I've shown him on here before. You guys have seen him. He's notorious for soaking when he just wants to, and he has a beautiful enclosure, PVC, holds the humidity levels very well. I think his lowest that his humidity level will ever get is about 68%, 65 ranking. That's where we try to keep it at. And he will still go and soak it. And usually it's from the time when he's fixing the shed, he'll actually go into his water and he will sit in there for hours on end just soaking to help get that shit off of him. Not because his humidity levels are too low, but just because he just finds that a more and more comfortable experience for him. Yes, both pythons will actually soak on their own, which is why it's a good idea to have a water bowl in their form that's big enough for them to submerge their bodies. Because yes, some will do that. Maybe not all will do it, but many of them will do that. And sometimes they'll treat it like a little swim day at the beach. I got a normal. She loves to go stick her body in her little pond I made her for about 5-10 minutes, just kind of, and she'll poke her head out on top of her coal hind like she's watching TV. When I have the living room TV on, she'll be right there in her little pond, as I call it, and perch her head watching TV, and she comes out when she wants to come out. So yes, they will voluntarily soak themselves. So yes, soaking them in a time of stuck shed is a great option. So don't listen to those who are going to tell you it's undue distress. It don't work. None of that. Now I've seen some people who add tips as far as using Pedialyte to mix in with the water, with the tub of water. Don't do that. I mean, there's honestly no purpose to it. It's not going to help them, because what they actually is that the water itself to hydrate their bodies, because they're not drinking it. They can't drink the water and replenish themselves like a dog or a cat can, or like we can. They actually just need to absorb that water into their skin, for it to help with their shedding process, because that allows to add that barrier a little bit quicker for them to add that grease, allowing for them to be able to separate their old new skin. It just makes the process a little bit quicker for them. But again, the Pedialyte does nothing for that. You're just wasting your money on Pedialyte that does absolutely nothing for them. All it does, it adds an extra little grease to separate the shed, and increases the efficiency as far as hydrating their bodies, so they don't have to wait through the internal process of just sitting in a enclosure with higher humidity. If you have them wait too long, if you have it just sitting in their enclosure, you bump the humidity to kind of help get the shed off. Well, now you're prolonging their pain with that stuck shed on them, and now it can take them that time to rehydrate themselves, how long it may take, and then for their bodies to have enough to finally produce enough that lymphatic fluid to get that off. The tub soaking solution is a quick and efficient process for them that does not cause any stress whatsoever. It's very efficient, and it's a quick resolution to get that stuck shit off. And all you have to do is make sure that you make the proper corrections to your enclosure, your housing treat, that way that their levels are from that point on continue to be higher to where they need to be. Remember, guys, try to keep it around the 70% range is what I recommend as far as minimum, because overall that's what's going to produce the most comfortable environment for them. Some will recommend boosting it during the during the shedding process time. I'm against that, because to me at that point, once they're already shedding, and if it was already too low for them during that time, let's say you're around 60% was your high end, and you're just now bumping it up to 80%. From my experience, that seems to be a little kind of late late to the party type of thing. At that point, their body's already been producing that fluid, already trying to get that shed separated from their old skin, separated from their new skin. So that it doesn't really help them too much. It might help them a little bit, but not enough. So try to keep it up all the time around 70%. Now you don't need to have it at 80%, 24/7. Just a little bit higher than the bare minimum to make sure you're providing that ambient amount of humidity levels to keep their comfort level, and it'll make sure that their bodies are meeting the requirements that they need to have. Now, is there other methods to helping them? Yes, I've heard of other methods like getting a wet pillowcase, a wet towel/bin type of deal, and put them in a tub. You know, get your paper towels or a pillowcase, whatever, super soaking wet or just really wet, and put them in there. And basically, you're basically making a humidity high where you're trapping that humidity in there with them. I'm not the biggest fan of that, due to the fact that you're leaving them in there on wet ground, wet tissue. I'm just not the biggest fan of that. I've used it a couple times. I just didn't love it. A fan of it. It kind of made me think it kind of reminded me of the process of just boosting their humidity levels and hoping that it helps take off that stuck shed over time. And I kind of makes me remind me of I'm not really for that, and it's definitely a little bit longer process than the simple. Just let them soak and take them out and kind of wipe them off, try to see if you can get some off. If not, put them back in. That just is more efficient and easier on them and better for them. And that way you're not prolonging them out of their enclosure to put them in the tub like that. It's a quick process. You know, it's not about being quick either, guys. Just from my experience, it's just I found this being overall to be the better experience for them and a better message in my experience in owning ball pythons. I do want to stress, guys, this is not something you should be doing all the time. You should not have to be soaking your ball python every single time out there having a shedding process, because overall that's not good for them to have to continuously do. Yes, I said the soaking thing is fine, it helped them, yes, but that's not what I'm getting at. The reason why it's not good for you to have to continuously do that, because that means their humidity levels are not being maintained where they should be, which means that you're causing them pain and stress and drying out their systems the entire time until they go through the next shedding process, which is not healthy for them, which will lead to that silent killer I told you guys about, respiratory infections. And at that point, once they get that respiratory infection, they're having to fight that off. That's a tough battle for them to fight, and you're putting them through all kinds of stress because you're not being the proper keeper that you're supposed to be when it comes to taking care of the animals. So make sure you guys maintain those levels all the time. The soaking method or even the other methods should only have to be used in these random cases. Hey, my levels were great, but for some reason they need a little help with getting the shut off this time. That's fine, perfect. But it should not be a continuous reoccurrence. You know, we have those times. We make those mistakes. Oh crap, there's a little low. Kind of my fault. We've all been there. It happens. Just make sure you correct it and try to prevent it from happening again. Again, this should not be a recurring issue, regardless of what method you're using, because that tells you right there that you're putting the animal through unnecessary stress and pain of having to deal with that fighting stuck shed stuff, and it also just makes it harder for them to move until that stuck shed is off. Alright, morphers, I think that'll be it for this video. Like I said, guys, this method does work. You're going to have some pushback on some of the people think that it don't work, but it does work. Be careful who you're getting information from, making sure that you're vetting your sources. Check more than one sources. But anything I put on here, I can guarantee you guys does work, and it'll only benefit your ball python. I will never put anything on here that will steer you guys in the wrong direction. I always make sure that whatever I put on here is 100% truthful and actually beneficial to your animals, because here at Morphin Serpents, we always put the animal first above anything else. So again, I wouldn't be on here telling this if I was not 100% guaranteed that this is a great method. I actually had a customer the other day. They came in, expressed their concern about their ball python having stuck shed and didn't know what to do. So I explained this method to them. And I got a message about a day or so ago, and I was told that they're doing a lot better. The shed came off, they worked great, they had a little bit left, but like I explained to them, it will come off because now their kids basically had a jump start to dehydration because they didn't have the wrong bedding. Unfortunately, again, it happens. It's part of the world. As long as we learn and correct our mistakes, that's all that matters. But again, now that they are aware of that, the snake's doing a whole lot better. So that's small bit of stuck shit. That's about that much left on that snake. With the matter of days, it will be gone thanks to that quick intervention of the method we've explained as far as soaking the tub. I hope you guys found this information very helpful. And if you guys have any questions, concerns, please feel free to drop them down below in the comment section. And again, if you guys like what you see here, please go ahead and give us a like and a follow. And let us know down in the comments if you got any other questions or ideas you would like for us to cover in our next video or one of our next videos you would like for us to address to help answer you guys. I'll be happy to do that too. Otherwise, I will answer any questions you guys have in the comments. Well, until next time, guys, keep on rocking, keep on getting them balls. They're extremely amazing creatures. This is very misunderstood. They're all amazing. Reptiles are very amazing. So make sure you guys just spread the word how amazing these creatures are, so we can try to help grow our reptile community. But until next time, guys, more fun.